How much sunshine does Central Otago get compared to the rest of New Zealand? The good news is there's a lot of science around this, very easy to find heat maps like this one here, which shows you the solar potential. Now, the important thing to understand about New Zealand is we have really good solar hours everywhere. So even places like Stewart Island, Rakiura, that is about 14% below the national average. And what we are after really is the cheapest energy with the least amount of emissions. So it shouldn't really matter where the energy source comes from. What we need to be focusing on is the cleanest energy source and the cheapest energy source. Solar is not overrated. Solar on your rooftop is the cheapest energy in human history. While nuclear is low emission, it's also really expensive. It costs a lot of money to build a nuclear power plant, which means it's suited really well for large populations where you can socialize that large capital cost. Densely populated countries like Singapore. But in New Zealand, with only 5 million people, it's going to cost every individual a lot of money, and that will be reflected in our power bills. We also have a lot of energy storage potential already in our hydro dams. It really makes no economic sense to ever look at building a nuclear power plant in New Zealand. I mean, I think it's even hard to make it work in Australia. We've got the Liberal government in Australia at the moment looking at nuclear, but I can't possibly see how that isn't going to cause Australian power bills to go through the roof. See, new nuclear power projects around the world have been plagued with cost overrun. The Hinkley nuclear power station project in the UK was expected to cost around £18 billion, and that's blown out to well over £35 billion. And that works out to be 14,200 New Zealand dollars per New Zealander. So my advice is simple: if you're gonna have a strong opinion on the different types of energy sources, you should at least do your numbers, because when you do your numbers, it becomes very obvious what works well and what doesn't.